There is one thing that you need to know in order to be a Christian. It has nothing to do with timelines, prophecies, verses, chapters, any of that kind of thing. Just one thing. Do you know Jesus? That and more coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Logos. Learn more about the world's best Bible study software at logos.com/themove.
Hey, welcome back to The Move, where we're vibing with the book 10 minutes at a time.
The next 10 minutes, we're going to be looking at John chapter 9, verses 1 through 12.
And the question is always, have you read it? If you haven't, it's in the comments section below. And what we will do is we'll put 10 minutes on the clock, and we'll start that off in 3, 2, 1, go.
So we're transitioning over to a new story here with Jesus healing a blind man. And I love the way that this whole story plays out with the very themes of the book of John. Because we started the book as this light comes into the darkness. The darkness doesn't understand it. And here we see Jesus as the light of the world entering into a space. And we see the reaction of two ways that people respond to light. We see a blind man who is unable to see. When light comes, boom, illuminates. He's able to see the world. Like he's able to have clarity. The other thing is that when light comes, a lot of times if you get a bright flashing light and you're like, sorry. I'm just making it too much. It's like, oh, this is what it is.
Like, let's just talk. Yeah.
False start.
That's all right. Welcome back to The Move, where we're vibing with the book 10 minutes at a time.
The next 10 minutes, we're looking at John chapter 9, verses 1 through 12.
And as always, the question is, have you read it? If you haven't, it's in the comments section below. We're going to put 10 minutes on the clock, and we will start that off in 3, 2. Oh, wait, I got to reset this. I gotta reset because we were in the back of the other one. All right. Welcome back to The Move, where we're vibing with the book 10 minutes at a time.
The next 10 minutes, we're looking at John chapter 9, verses 1 through 12.
And the question always is, have you read it? If you haven't, it's in the comments section below. We'll put 10 minutes on the clock, and we'll start that off in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So, go. No. So, John chapter 9.
It's a really cool story. Jesus is coming to heal a man that was born blind.
And what is it a new story? Because I know that we're looking, it's like, oh, it's a new chapter. Mm-hmm. It's a whole new story. But really, is it?
Is it really? Because there's these themes that we see John playing over and over and over. This light coming into darkness, dispelling this whole thing. And would you be surprised? No, you shouldn't be surprised. This is exactly what happens here.
Because look at, if you go back to John chapter 8, verse 12.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Jesus spoke, I am the light of the world. And we have everything that we talked about so far. Mm-hmm. At the end of chapter 8, he says, and he went out of the temple. But then the way 9 begins is, as he passed by. So there's a continuation here.
Everything's just this one giant run-on story.
Yeah, it's a story, right? So that then this story actually plays on what Jesus has just said. And what do we have? We have a man blind from birth. Mm-hmm. Right. Ever try to explain color? Ever thought about, like, how do you explain color to a blind person? Right?
I think there's actually YouTube videos on that.
Shut up.
I think I've actually seen it. Because there's such a thing as, like, blind YouTubers.
Yeah.
Really interesting stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
We're doing that after we're done with this.
We'll include a link.
Yeah, we totally got to see that. I got to see that. So then there's this place where a man is born blind, and that is he's in darkness, right? Mm-hmm. We're just coming off a story that is all about I am the light of the world. You can only come through me. You can only see truth through me. We made references to the storehouses of Torah actually being interpreted through him. And the prophecy and intent of Torah is actually Jesus, right?
Absolutely.
All of reality is going to make sense in what he's doing. And then we even concluded the last 10 minutes where it's like, well, how do you know? How do you actually know about reality? How do you know that Jesus isn't lying? It's like,
you got to have spirit in your life. If you don't have it, there's not really much else we can do for you.
But then it's like, how do you get spirit?
Take him at his word.
Take him at his word. So this is what you see here, right? You see this story. So exciting. Verse 3, Jesus answered. Oh, because they asked the disciples, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And that idea of sin is connected to what you've done, right? And Jesus is like, nah, it wasn't that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him, right? And now let's take a quick deviation. It is not that he was created blind so that then God could be like, oh, look at my glory. I can then make a blind man see. Like, well, you started him off blind to begin with. That's a cruel trick, right? As much as it is, the world is actually in darkness because of sin, and God allowed the world to be in this holding pattern of sin in order that he might redeem, right? And what I mean by that is, real quick, when Adam fell in the garden, what was the curse?
The curse was death.
That curse, that death didn't happen in that moment, is the grace of God to actually come and redeem. So the world falls into darkness, and God allows it to fall into darkness instead of it falling all the way into death, so that then light might be revealed, right? Which is what's happening here.
That's great. Then he says, we must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night's coming when no one can work. But as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world.
All right, what are all those references of light, darkness, day, night, I am in the world? There's a time when you can't work. Right? Well, there's so much imagery playing, right? And to me, that just screams creation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that he's actually organizing reality and light around himself yet again, right? And what about that time of as long as I'm in the world, I am the light of the world, where he says before, where he says, we must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. Have you ever stopped and considered that line?
I have. It's been puzzling as I've tried to do that.
Yeah.
And the best I've come to is that, Jesus is referring to, obviously, when he dies, he's like, hey, I can no longer do any work. I'm no longer the light of the world in that respect. So I got to do my work now.
Yeah. And then I also see it as the interim between, so he says, I am the light of the world, right? What is it that Jesus spoke to the people when he was on the mountain in the sermon?
You are the light of the world.
You are the light of the world. But to actually be light, there is a necessary component, which is spirit. Jesus dies, gives up his spirit. So all the work that he's done through spirit isn't happening because he's done, right? He's dead. So the light of the world has been snuffed out. And you see this imagery when he's at the cross and it all becomes dark. And then spirit doesn't fall on them until Pentecost. So there really is this time where
nothing's happening.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
Right?
And funnily enough, when Pentecost comes, what is the evidence of it? How does it manifest itself physically?
Light
on top of tongues of fire.
Right? And then that light, then there are these signs and wonders of healing, which is exactly what he's doing now. Right? And then you see again this creation imagery. You get back to the story. Jesus saying, I'm the light of the world. I'm going to do this work. And then what does he do? Spits on the ground, makes mud with saliva, and puts it on the dude's eyes.
Yeah.
First of all, that's gross.
It is.
Right?
Worth noting.
That's gross. And, like Jesus is kind of gross.
I love how I think other stories in the gospel just like don't even talk about him putting it. It's almost like just Jesus spits on them. It's like, whoa, what's going on there? That could have been translated for this context a little bit better, but it is what it is.
Right. But then what do you have? Again, you have a callback to creation.
There's this moving and molding of the mud with his own hands as he's creating man in his own image.
Yo, talk about it, right? About the moving and the molding. Where else do we see that? We see that with the potter.
The potter and the clay.
Right?
Yeah.
Where does the clay tell the potter what it is? No, the clay's dark in a sense, right?
It's got no light.
So it can only be what it is if the one who can actually see what it is forms it. Right? And so you have this here again where Jesus is actually doing this to somebody, and then he gives him a direct command. Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So he went and washed.
I wonder what it would have been like to be this blind dude. Just like some random guy approaches you one day, starts like putting mud on your face. You're like, what is going on? Go over to the pool. All right.
First of all, he's blind. Now he's got a layer of caked mud.
It's like, dude, you just made my problem worse.
How does he get to the pool? Somebody directs him.
He had a seeing eye dog or something.
Right? But he gets there. He gets there, gets healed, and I love this next exchange. Then the neighbors, upon seeing him, is this not the man who used to sit and beg? And some are like, yeah, it is. And others like, no. It's a man that just like him, right? And what do you see in that moment? You see how light works.
Yep. You see how light works. Some people, when light comes, they see. And other people, when light comes, they're blinded.
Yep.
They can't see what has actually taken place.
Yeah, right. So light falls, right? You think about Pentecost, start speaking in tongues. No. That's not your languages.
They're just drunk.
They're just drunk.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, again, what is that hardness of heart that keeps you from seeing light? You already have some preconceived notions of how reality should work, and it's almost you can't be moved by it because it's hard and fast.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's really something else. And so the man called, he asked him, how were your eyes opened? And what does he say?
There's this guy, this man, I don't know what he is, but his name's Jesus, and he did this thing to me and told me to do this, so I did it.
That speaks to me. It's the conversation we were having off camera, right? Me and Justin were just talking about, like, how ultimately do you know?
Because it's easy, or in a former life, the way that you know is by memorizing every book of the Bible and having this string of text that you line up together, and you present this eloquent argument because of all these things put together. Or if you're not religious, then the way that you know is by putting all these philosophies and ideas and argumentations together. But clearly this guy has no clue about any of those things.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, there's this
man
guy named Jesus.
Right? And he did it. And we can even say that for our own lives now. Like, how do we know, Justin? Like we were just talking about, like, how do we, in our former lives, how did we used to know?
Oh, well, let me tell you about the Kalam cosmological argument, my friend. Let me tell you about the argument for the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Cool. Like, those are nice. Those are good. Cool. And yet now that's not how.
No, because what happened to us, like, I know that for me and Justin, like, light shone into our lives and Spirit spoke to us. And we received the words of Spirit and we were washed by Spirit. And now when we're asked, how do you know? It's like, we know this person. This person did it for us.
And there's beauty in the simplicity of this. There's beauty in the ignorance of this man's response.
Yeah.
The fact that he calls him a man, the fact that he doesn't know where he's going, the fact that he doesn't know anything about Jesus, all that he knows is that there's this guy, Jesus, who did this thing for me.
Yeah.
It's beautiful in that, like, the bar has been dropped from I need to know everything about everything to I just need to know Jesus.
Yeah.
And if I know Jesus, I see.
Yeah. Let's go a little overtime.
Okay.
Right at the end here, it's like, he tells me to go wash. So I went and washed and received my sight. Right? I received my sight. They said to him, where is he? I don't know. That speaks to me heavy, and here's why. When I was blind, I had a whole system of truth that I needed to defend in order to make sense of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were asked, all right, Jonathan, you believe this thing, where is he? Oh, well, let me tell you where he is. See, he's up here in heaven, and he's doing this, and these are the evidences, and da-da-da-da-da, and because of this historical projection, and this prophecy, and these moves, and it's
like, cool. Great.
But
do you know Jesus?
But do you know Jesus? Like, I don't have to do that anymore. Where is he? I mean, go look for him yourself. If you want, you could look at my life lived. Like, he's actually changed me. Come hang out with me for a few days and see whether I'm still the man I used to be. Then after that, let the fact that I can now see that I'm no longer who I used to be.
Let that be enough.
Let that be enough.
Because the more important question, rather than, oh, where is Jesus? Can you do all this gymnastics? Is, do you know him?
Yeah.
Have you encountered Jesus?
Oh.
Because if you haven't, there's a good chance you may still be in darkness.
Yeah. All right, that's our 10. We'll see you next time around.
Hey movers, I recently got to travel to the Logos headquarters and ended up recording several tutorials on how you and I can get more from our Bible study using Logos. To see the entire playlist of videos, visit logos.com/themove and get 10% off any Logos 8 product you want. logos.com/themove.